tracks. We're able to see souls saved, and what a true blessing that is. We give you all the glory for it. And Lord, on another level, we're asking, Lord, that you would guide our kids here, our workers here, with your testimony that you gave them. And God, I just ask, Lord, that they would be able to share it effectively, and Lord, in a clear way and in a personal way, that they can show how it is you worked in their heart. Lord, you've been so good to us this week. We give you all the praise. We give you all the glory. In Christ's name, amen. All right, well, we'll just go in order here. And if you are in Potsdam, the A.A. Kinston Middle School, I'm going to ask you to come up here. Put this right here. And I would just ask, please hold your applause until the end. I want to make sure we keep moving as effectively as possible. We'll go from there.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm Brandon Nero, and we were Team 1. And I'm just going to be 100% honest with you guys. This week was very different from all the rest of the SMITEs. That I was actually a leader this year, which I was very thankful for and excited about. But also because I've never been this is such a different area to canvas and things like that, and I've just never experienced this kind of canvassing before. And I was very frustrated when we first started off. Just going up to the door, I was like praying that they would just at least take the flyer. And a lot of people did, and a lot of people didn't. But eventually through this week, God really showed me humility this week. I know Brother Sam asked us to figure out what that he taught us, and he definitely taught me humility and things like that. And so we did have one kid to our Bible club, and that was such a blessing. We prayed and prayed for just one, and God gave us that one, and I'm very thankful for that this week. And then also, we canvassed a lot, and Brother Sam yesterday came up to me at 10 o'clock at night, and he handed me a huge stack of flyers and said, all of these people are from Potsdam. And I literally wanted to almost cry. I was so happy. I was like, thank you so much. Like, we saw that even though they might not come to our Bible club, but they were coming to the night services and other people's Bible clubs. And that was just such a blessing seeing that. And that our work is paying off, and that it's just, we're even planting a little seed. And that was what I was taught this week. And I'm just so thankful that God blessed and could work through us. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Rusty, and mine's going to be a short testimony, but this is truly what the Lord showed me this week. He showed me that the power of prayer is really powerful. I experience this every year in prayer and stuff, but this is our first year, my first year, without any kids, for a long time. But I was impressed with our group and how much Brianna did and stuff, and always working. We never just sat around doing nothing. We always had somebody at least going out and knocking doors. And I was impressed by that, and the Lord just showed us a great work ethic and answered our prayers with that one kid. So thank you all.
My name is Amber, and I guess this for a while now I've just been praying for God to use me, and we were passing out flyers and stuff. We didn't really have any kids, and I didn't get into too many conversations with people. They would be short or just they didn't really lead into salvation or anything. So I was just really praying for God to use me. And the other day we were just out in the street and we were passing out flyers and stuff and balloons, and we all gathered together because we were waiting for the bus. And it was a little bit late, and we were just standing there. We look over and we see Eric on the other side of the street with Danny, and we just look over and he's talking to this guy. And then somebody made a comment. They were like, "Oh, he doesn't have his Bible." And I was holding Sam's, and somebody told me, "Oh yeah, somebody should just go run him over one." So then I crossed the street and I had to hand him the Bible, and I just tried to do it quietly, and he just talked to them, and I got to stand there and witness. So even though it was small, I got to help him in some way to be able to lead somebody to the Lord. And then it's just the song that we sang that night, it just, the value of one, it just really helped me to understand that somebody got saved from eternal pain, eternal fire, and eternal hell, just separated from God. It really hit me. And I was just, even though it was small, even though it was just one thing, I still passed out flyers. We still planted seeds, not only for other groups, but also for the group that is coming from Texas, from another church to come through. And so, I mean, even if we don't get to see all of it, we still saw some. And I think that the next week there's going to be a lot more people that are going to get saved. Thank you.
Yeah, we talked to Brianna for a little while there, and it was a challenging week. And so I got the stack from the 10 service that Macy actually was managing these registration cards. And, you know, in all honesty, you know, we were just kind of storing them and running back and forth to the buses, making sure, you know, everything is situated, et cetera, et cetera. And then last night I was able to kind of organize where they all were, looking at names, not really addresses. And it was one after another for Potsdam. And their group went to festival after festival and spent a significant amount of time there. And only to find out that they were coming the whole time, but in a whole nother capacity. So that was a huge blessing, and I know that she appreciated that. And thank you all for your prayers on that one. All right, next group, Canton Buck Street. Canton Buck Street. Where's Canton Buck Street? I have it right from Canton.
That's my group.
Yep, if everyone wants to just come up and just make a line to my left here, and we'll go from there. Okay.
Just want to start off by saying that what convicted me this week was we're coming to these SMITE events, and our job is basically to represent God, to represent Jesus. And that's just amazing. No matter what happens this week, we get to represent Jesus. And that's just one thing that led in my heart the first day, that, you know, we're not just doing this physically to make ourselves feel better or to make ourselves look better around others, but we're doing this for Jesus, the one who created us. And it's just amazing to see that. And this week was very different. You know, the area smaller for us, and every year I've expected a lot of kids. And so earlier before SMITE, I was praying that God would give us lots of kids in our group, and I was expecting it, and I believed it. I said, if I have faith, God will show me that. And I kind of had this mentality that God is going to answer this prayer the way I want it, the way that I'm asking for it, and exactly the way I'm asking for it. God showed me this week that it's not what you want and how you want it to happen. It's Him answering it, and it's according to His plan and His time. And even though we didn't see lots of kids, we still were sowing seeds. We were putting out papers out. We were giving the gospel. We were just spreading God's word. The gospel was in the back of those flyers that we passed out. We passed out what? How many did we pass out this week? Do you know? We passed out thousands of them. And it's just that many people had the chance to hear the gospel on the back of that card if they looked. And it's just amazing to even have that opportunity to see us planting seed. Even though we don't see it now, we can see it in the future. And another thing that happened this week was I asked God that He would let me lead someone to the Lord this week. And so earlier right before we left, I knew the Romans road. I knew the steps in order to lead someone to salvation. But I wanted to make sure that if any chance I was nervous or if I forgot, that I would have it in my Bible. So I taped the Romans roads verses in the front of my Bible. And on, I think, Wednesday night, we had two kids come to our Bible club, or to the tent service. And our group leader told me that I could sit in the tent with him. And I was like, Lord, I know he listened during the Bible club. I think he's ready, and I know that you will save him. And I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to do it. And I thank you for showing me that. And Brother Wissam came back right before we went up for choir, and he said groups 1 through 3 are in the auditorium. And I was like, trash. I'm not going in the tent tonight. And I was like, Lord, there has to be a reason why this is happening. I'm like, Lord, I kind of got angry because I was like, I'm not going to have the chance to lead this kid to the Lord. So I'm sitting to the service, and I'm listening to the message, and in the end, I understand that it really wasn't what I wanted. It's God's answer, and Him showing me that it's not about what I want. It's more about what He wants, and how He's going to do it is His plan. And it's not, I can't tell Him what I want, and then He's going to do it for me. It's His plan, and it has to work to His glory. And that afternoon, after I went to the tent, and I asked if anyone was saved, and they said that Cash, the boy that I asked the Lord for, he got saved that night. And I heard that Braden Rice was the one that got to talk to him. And earlier when I was going to the tent, I put my Bible in the tent. And I went into the auditorium, and I never got it. So I left it next to him. And so when he went to go get, when he raised his hand, he went to go get cash, and he brought him out, and he had my Bible. He's seen it. So he grabbed it, and he was getting ready to show him, and he was looking through the Bible for Romans Road. He was trying to find the verses. And he spent, 3-4 minutes trying to look for it, and he couldn't find anything. And he was about to close the Bible and ask someone to help him. And he flipped the Bible open again, and in the front of the page was the verses, and exactly where he could find all the Bible verses so that he could lead that kid to the Lord. And so God showed me that even though I was going to use that Bible, those verses, to lead someone to the Lord, he used it for Braden, for his purpose, and it still answered my prayer. And I wanted to thank the Lord for showing me, humbling me and showing me that it's not about what I want, it's about what he does and his plan. That's my testimony this week.
I didn't want to stand up here while he was doing his testimony. So I had a lovely group. They were great, very hard workers. Couldn't have made it throughout this week without them. When Brother Wassam came to me, and actually he texted me and said, "We've nominated you to be group leader," and I was like, "That's great, but I won't be able to have that special relationship with the kid." Because many of you know, you have that one. Each and every one of us have that one kid that we just bond with. And that's our kid. That's what we think in our head. That's our kid. That's who we're going to take care of. And we each and all just pick, you know? I don't know, it just works that way. And so I really wanted to bond with these kids. And I was like, you know what? I had been praying about it before your church was even mentioned. And I was just like, Lord, you know where the place is, prepare their hearts. Lord, you know this, prepare my team, and stuff like that. And I didn't even know I was a group leader, and then I found out, and then I was like, wow, really prepare my team. And then I picked them, and every single night, pray for you by night and day, little whispers of prayer. Tissues. Wow, I just have great people. And so, saying that, wow, what a dear you are. Wow, thank you so much. You're the best. All right, so then I was like, wow, I really wanted to make that one impression, but God knows what he's going to do, and God knows how he's going to work. And I was really nervous, but I was still excited because I know that God's not going to give me anything too hard. He's not going to stretch me too far. He'll stretch me, and he'll grow me, but he's not going to push me over to where I'm going to die or anything. So we really met. When we met here, it was really great. It was great to meet you guys. You have a wonderful family. Thank you for letting us come. Everything is just perfect. So anyways, I was really talking to them. I was really nervous, had no idea what I was doing. I felt like they were so overwhelmed because I was just like, and I don't even know what to do. And I was just going on like a 50-mile-per-hour train, hi, I'm here, and I'm your leader. And so Monday came, and we had no kids, and that hit me hard because this is my 6th year, and in all my years working, I have never had a day without kids. And I was broken. I was thinking in my head, what did I do wrong? What can I change? What did I do? I just had no words. I didn't know what to say. So we took that time, and I think God really used that day because we went around and we shared our testimonies. We shared our likes, our dislikes. We shared favorite verses and our different positions on some Bibles, truths and stuff. And it was just a great time to just have that. I don't know. It was just surreal. I don't know. It was weird. It was really weird. I just felt comfort. God was just hey, don't worry. Look at all these great people I've surrounded you with. You're going to be fine. So then we went around and we prayed, and I was crying like I am now. And Holly came up to me, and she hugged me, and she said, listen, it's all about God's plan. It's not about what you do in your power. It's about him and having faith on him. And that really, really struck hard. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to relax, kick back, because that's normally how I live life. And this time, when coming into this week, I thought I could do it in my power and help. Like I said, what did I do wrong? I didn't do anything wrong. It's God who's just saying, relax, I got this. So that night I went home and I prayed for one kid. That's all I asked him. I said, listen, you know what you're going to do. I want one kid tomorrow. Show me your power. And the next day we had a very rambunctious little Bella running around, hitting us with sticky hands. She's an angel. She is a godsend. I prayed for one kid, and he gave me one. So, next day, I was just freaking out about that. I was like, wow. I was like, look at the way this is working. I was like, I'm gonna push God even more. I'm gonna ask him for 5. And so, that night is when Sarah, I believe, called the church, and Uncle Ron called Nate, thinking it was in Nate's group, and then she was in my area or something like that. So she actually lived on the same street as Bella. And so it was really cool because we had been picking Bella up from her cul-de-sac, taking her to the club with us, then dropping her back off, and it was just really cool to see that work. So then she calls and she's like, oh, I have a son, Cash. You heard about him, and I have a daughter, Callie. A lot of you might have seen her. She's a beautiful little girl, too. So they came with us on Thursday, and then Bella brought her little brother, Joey. We were able to pick him up. It was like, God, you've given me 4. I need one more. And he brought that one along. He was at one of the parks before. His name was Andres. I don't know. One of your groups had him. But he came to the park, and Cash and Callie and Bella are calling, Andres, hi. And then I was like, hi, come join us. You're my 5th kid. Come on, sit down. And so he and his mom stayed, and it was insane. I was like freaking out. My heart was pounding. I was shaking. I was freaking out. I got on the bus, and I was like crying to my other group on the bus. I was like, guys, look at what God's done. Look at how cool this is. I'm seeing him work, and I'm literally just not doing anything but relaxing. Like, it's been great and stuff. And so that night, I didn't even know what else to pray. So I literally just prayed, God, do your will. I was like, if you want me to have kids, give me kids. If you don't, then I'm fine with that. Just give me what you want me to have. And so Cash and Callie were able to come, and it was just great. We were able to spoil them, really nail it hard, really talk to Cash about his salvation and that decision that he made the previous night. And today, we saw God and the devil go hand in hand, is what I like to call it. It was great. I shouldn't really be telling the story because it was all Holly. But, man, it was really cool because Cash had gotten saved, and Bella, we had talked to her mom this morning, and we believe truly in the depths of our hearts that she's saved, without a doubt. She grew up in a church and stuff, so it was just really cool to kind of just bounce off about Bible and stuff. So we went and we walked around to Cash and Callie's house. They were out playing in the yard and street and stuff, and we walked over, and she stepped out, and we were talking to her, and Holly was just like given the gospel plan, like just very plain and simple. I was a bit nervous. I've only dealt with kids on that salvation level, so I didn't want to like insult her with like, and this is what sin is and stuff like that. So I was like, Holly, I just want to see how you work. like how this works. Just show me, you know. And so we were just she was just like, this is what sin is, this is why we deserve it, kind of thing. And every time she invited her to pray, the devil used something. Whether it was the dog, whether it was Callie wanting to play a game outside and her mom didn't want her to have the game outside, whether it was the music that suddenly grew louder and the words were just not good, you know what I mean? And he just seemed to be working. But then on the other side, you saw God. And you saw him whisper in their ears, this is right. This is true. This is good. Keep asking questions. Don't let them leave. And stuff. And we were just able to answer all their questions and really get the point across. And I want you to pray for them because right now they aren't saved. The mom's name is Sarah, and her sister, Lindsay, actually came out and was talking with us, and their minds are spinning. The wheels are turning, and they are ready. They are ready. They understand what sin is. And you know the beauty? God had sent someone way before us. And Sarah told us, my friends Joey and Andy have been telling me about Jesus and God. And I just don't understand it the way they explain it, but when you guys explain it, it's simple. I understand it. I get it. And so we've been praying for them ever since we were able to talk to them, and I encourage you guys to pray for them throughout the night because Holly's going to try to call her. She's given us permission to call her tonight, or if not, we're really praying that she's able to make it Sunday morning. And I've just seen myself grow spiritually this week, and I've also seen us as a group grow spiritually. So it's just been really great to see God work. And I wouldn't trade this week for anything. That's all.
You know, it's amazing what the Lord brings into our life sometimes so that we would go back and seek him again. Sometimes it's a valley, sometimes it's a mountain, and yet there was a good testimony of somebody that sought the Lord about what God was already doing in their life and just to seek him again. It's very exciting. All right. Do I have anyone else from Canton Buck Street? Canton Buck Street? Okay. Anyone from Parishville? Parishville? If I could have everyone from Parishville, if you could just kind of line up to my left. Parishville? Anyone else from Parishville? If you could just line up to my left, please. All right.
Hello, my name's Brian. This is my 6th year on SMITE, first as a group leader. And honestly, I was very, very nervous going to this. I didn't know what to expect. But the Lord really helped me and gave me strength every single day. And I think it really helped that Brother Shane emphasized bathe everything in prayer. And every day before we went out and canvassed, the guys were going to pray, and everyone in my group prayed. And I'm really thankful for that. And I want to say that if you ever want a short prayer, go to Alex Vance. He says a prayer in like 5 words. It's awesome. So if you want a short prayer, go to Alex Vance. But on a serious note, the Lord taught me this week to prioritize my focus. And our focus should be on God, first of all, and what he wants for us and what he would have us do. And so this week, my mind was going crazy. I'm thinking about college, I'm thinking about vacation coming up, and then this week, and just everything going on in my mind. But the Lord really showed me that we need to focus on what he wants us to do, who he wants us to talk to, and what he would have us do. And so that was our number one priority that I think, as a group leader, that I need to have. Secondly, I need to get my group focused on a plan and doing that plan and handing out our flyers and just inviting people as much as possible, having a good spirit and a good attitude. And I think my group really did that this week. They did everything I asked me to do with a good attitude. Nobody ever was in a bad mood. Everyone was just so happy, and it really encouraged me because if as a group leader, if you see someone and they're like dragging and it's like they don't want to be here, it's like, what are you doing wrong as a group leader? Because your job is to get your group motivated and getting them to hand out these flyers and getting people to come to your Bible club. And really this week, my group was just amazing. I just love them and just thankful for them. I'm thankful for this opportunity to be a group leader. And I'm just really happy that with our numbers, I was kind of discouraged for the other groups because everyone asked me how many did you have, and our high was 23. And then everyone's like, oh, we had 2. I'm like, man, that really stinks. But that's okay, because that's what God wanted. God didn't want everyone to have a lot of people, but God gave everyone the numbers that He wanted them to have, and that's what it's all about. Is what God wants. That's what I learned this week.
I'm just really, really grateful that God allowed me to come this week. I was really nervous coming into it because I didn't go to any of your all's churches. I'm the only one from my church coming, so I was just really nervous. I would have to meet a whole new group of people, and I was really scared that I would get in a group of people that I really didn't like and would have to just kind of deal with all week. But that didn't happen. I loved everyone in my group. They were all really, really great. We had a blast. But God just really taught me this week that sometimes you gotta do things that you don't really want to do just because it's what is in His plan. I was really just hoping this week I just kind of lay low and then just play some games with the kids and have a good time with them, build relationships with them, and just kind of do it that way. But then people, I forget everyone's name. The music director guy, sitting back there, he was really pushing people to do specials. And I'm sorry, I know you have a name. I can't remember names at all. Brother Ron. And he was just really hammering on people to do specials. And the Lord just really laid it on my heart. It's like, hey, you had your guitar here. You're going to use that as a pastime. If you didn't have spare time, you should use that to glorify me. And so I kind of had to go out of my comfort zone a little bit and do that. But it was just a real blessing. And then next day we had all those kids, and I was able to play games with them. And God just really stretched me out of my comfort zone this week, and that's always a good thing. So.
All right, yeah. Of course you'd have friends. It's great hair. It's just a great head of hair. Anyone else from Parrishville? Parrishville? Okay. Is there anyone from Norwood? Our Bible club at Norwood? At Village Park? Okay. Is there anyone else at Norwood? If you can come now, make the decision now to come at Norwood, just sign up.
Okay, so I had 3 main lessons that I learned on this SMITE. This was my first year being a group leader, and when I first received the text from Brother Sam of the list of group leaders and that I was part of it, immediately I literally just said, no, I cannot do that. I could never be a group leader. I'm literally going to tell him later today that I am not going to be a group leader. And later that day, I actually ran into Greenie at Luke's graduation party, and I started telling her about it, and she literally just said, you have literally been on SMITE for 9 years with me. You know exactly how SMITE goes. And so I thought, and I still was very much against it, but then as Brother Sam talked to me, he just really felt that he wanted me to be a group leader. So I finally gave in, and it was very tough, but I am so thankful for my group. Each one of them were such a great blessing. I could not have done it without them. Especially one of my workers. He's my best friend, Luke, and he... Stop! All your eyes make me cry. Okay, so he is very much shy, just like me, and I can barely get him to say hi to someone he doesn't know on a regular day, but especially we're in another state, and we're in our group working, and we had this boy come. His name was Cole, and immediately Luke just hit it off with him, and he would play with him. And we were giving our lesson on Friday on heaven, and we got to the end, and I asked if anyone wanted to learn more about salvation, and Cole raised his hand, and through circumstances, it ended up being only me and Luke as the guys in our club, and I was the one telling the story, so I quickly kind of kicked Luke and just was like, hey, can you take him out and just work with him? And it was just great. Luke was able to sit in the back and just talk to him, and was able to lead him to the Lord. Okay, so I got through that. So the first lesson is that God can use anyone if you will let him. So that's the second thing. If God is going to use him, if God is going to use you, you have to let him. Going into this week, I thought, okay, so I'm going to be a group leader. I'm going to have to prepare really well. I'm going to have to go by the schedule and follow everything perfectly, and I'm just going to have to be like the best group leader ever and just have millions of kids come to my club and just have the best week of SMITE ever. And I just realized through circumstances just that I needed to give it over to him and let him run the schedule, just that he would bring the kids to my club as he wanted, and just that he would make all the circumstances as long as I had it in his hands. My third lesson, if I can think of it real quick, is, okay, so I can never get this quote, but Mr. Bork gave it to us on one of the first, well, actually on our very first day of visitation. It's something that if you're going fishing and you see fish, you have to go fishing right then. And so literally, when we first got to our park, it was filled with a bunch of people and we had no idea what was going on. So we went around the back and literally we hadn't started anything. And we had parked the bus, and literally right where we parked the bus, Mr. Bork saw 4 kids out in their front yard, and he was like, okay, go fishing. And so we literally got off the bus, invited them right there, the very first people, and they came almost every day of Bible club, and that one of them was actually Cole, the one that Luke was able to lead to the Lord. And they're also going to be coming on Sunday. So just those were 3 good lessons that I learned on this SMITE. Thank you.
Okay, so I learned 2 different things on SMITE. The girls already know about this since I told it on the bus. But the first one was that I need to just get over my fears. God has my plan for me. He knows what he needs me to do. And if I just let him help me with it, then I'll just get over my fears. And like, I'm not very good at public speaking, obviously. So like, getting up with stories and stuff, Joe's like, you need to do 2 stories this week. And I'm like, me? Like, I can't do that. But like, when I got up there and actually gave it, like, I had no nerves. Like, it was just calm and it was very like natural for me to do it. And then my second lesson was that, oh gosh, I don't remember this. It was God doesn't care about numbers. Like, coming into this week, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna like kind of help Joe with this, and I know like both of us, since we both work on the same bus route, you know, like we're gonna have like so many kids this week. And so I know last year in Columbus, I didn't have that many kids, and I'm like, okay, this is gonna be the year. And so we get into the week and the first day, and like it's 1:30 and like there's nobody there. And so I'm like, okay, well, you know, maybe they'll come. And so we had, I think it was 5 kids the first day, and then it was 9 kids the second day. And then it came to Thursday, and like nobody was coming. And so the Lord just taught me, you know, like, just let me work. And so he told me, you know, it's not about what I think is like big numbers. The ones that I'm giving to you is the ones that I want you to reach. And so the ones that he gave us, we actually reached 1. And then the other 2 are still coming to church tomorrow, so I just pray that we'll be able to reach them too.
All right, certainly appreciate that testimony, both of those. Is there anyone else from Norwood? Maybe another testimony from Norwood? Village Park? Another testimony from Norwood? Give it one more second. All right. Is there anyone from Hopkin? Hopkin. Testimonies from Hopkin, please. Ready to go? Okay.
My name is Tiffany. Coming into this week of SMITE, I prayed that God was gonna that God was gonna
That's it.
Okay.
Come on. I don't like Come on, Tiffany, you got this.
So coming into this week, I just asked, I prayed a lot, asking God to just do some amazing things, and I just witnessing everything that everyone was able to do throughout the week was really an answer to prayer. I also learned that you kind of need to put yourself in the way and get out of your comfort zone. You can't always be scared to do something because you might be the one person that plants that seed in someone's life and helps them. It changes their eternity forever. And to me, that's something that I don't ever want to take for granted. I was reading my Bible the other day, and I came across Romans 5:8, and it says, if God be for us, then who can be against us? So really, you don't need to have fear. I also was really, really thankful to be able to be put in a group with all these people. We've grown so much together. We've learned so much from each other. And I have to brag a little bit. We have an amazing group leader. Okay, he took some of our strengths and some of our weaknesses and turned them into strengths. He texted me like the week before SMITE and was like, hey, we should do some song leading. And I don't really like standing up in front of people and talking, and especially singing. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. And the first day, we didn't have any kids come to our club, but he still made us run the program like we had kids. So I was up there, trying to lead songs, and afterwards, he talked to me, and he's like, well, try to come up with some more songs tomorrow, maybe not have your songbook up with you. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll try that, I guess. And so the next day, we ended up getting 3 kids to come to our Bible club, and Lindsay helped me lead some songs, so it made me feel a little bit more comfortable because I had someone there to kind of like help support me. And it was just amazing just to see how God worked in everything that went on, especially when we were canvassing. Each morning before we would go out, we would take time to pray together, and then we would go out and door knock and canvass, and oh my goodness, the houses are like 5 minutes apart, 10 minutes apart. There's like a cluster of little houses here, like 2 or 3, and then you have to walk like another 10 minutes to get to them. So it was really annoying, but yeah, and you also have to watch out for dogs. There are a ton of dogs, and one day I was out with Kara, and we were walking up this driveway, and we're like, okay, this looks like a house that has kids, and we're walking up the street, and all of a sudden, this huge black dog comes flying at us. And Kara takes off running, and I'm like, oh no, you're not supposed to run away from a dog charging you. And so I stopped, I planted my feet, I'm like, no, stop, no. And it just kind of stopped there and looked at me and was growling, and then it walked away, and I'm like, thank you, Lord. Because this thing was almost as big as me, so it was absolutely terrifying. But yeah, God has just done some amazing things this week, and I'm so thankful to have been a part of this SMITE.
Hi, I'm Eric. This is my second year of being a group leader, and I was just really thankful that Brother Sam nominated me to be a group leader this year. And I just want to share 3 things that really stuck out to me from this week. The first thing is that just the first day, I knew that we were going to go through trials and stuff. And I saw our group go through many different trials, and Miss Emily, she shared with us some verses from Romans 5 where it talks about tribulation, it works patience, and patience experience hope. And I just really think that was like our theme for this week. Some of the trials I say that we went through were, of course, dogs, like Tiffany said. Everyone had a dog, and some were big, some were cute, some were vicious, but everyone had them. Of course, it rained. Everyone went through that. We had a lot of creepy houses that we had to go to. That was another one. And Eric's driving. That was probably the biggest one. You knew it was coming. I'm sorry, but I just thought that our group really worked through all those trials, and no one was ever down. We were always had hope, like what Romans 5 said. And we just always looked to the Lord, and it was just awesome to see us just endure through all that. And we had kids and had lots of fun. Second thing is, I got to lead 2 adults to the Lord, and I've never really dealt with adults, so it's a little bit different. The first guy was yesterday, like what Brittany was talking about. Sorry, what Amber was talking about. we went to Potsdam to pass out flyers, and we were on the bus, and I didn't know. Mr. Bork said that we had to have balloons or magic or something. I was like, oh man, I don't know how to do any of that, and we don't have balloons. So I was like, well, let's just go like right outside the festival and just pass out stuff to the people coming to the festival. And at first I was kind of irritated because I felt really awkward. It was a different area. Our area, I'm just used to cornfields in our area, and there was like people everywhere, and they were a lot different. They were like staring at us, and I felt just the pressure on me. I was sweating a lot. But we were walking up and down the street passing out flyers, and there's a guy here. He already had a flyer in his hand. I didn't see it, but I asked him if I could give him a flyer. He started asking me about the church and stuff, and then I started talking to him. I didn't have my Bible. Then Amber brought me her Bible, and we didn't have time because the bus pulled up. So I asked him. I was like, "Hey, we got a service in just a couple minutes. If you want to come, if you didn't drive, we can put you right back here." And he said, "Sure." And I talked with him on the bus, and he got assurance of his salvation, and I was just really thankful for that. And then the other guy today, I got a card from someone in Brian's group that they went to his club here in Pierceville, but they lived in our area, and we visited them. And this guy, he's really intimidating. He's Mrs. Bork said he's protective of his daughter because his daughter got saved at Brian's Bible Club. And I was really nervous because it was another adult, and I'm not used to talking to adults. I'm used to talking to kids and teenagers. But I went through the whole plan of salvation, and I believe that he did get saved, that he prayed and got saved. And I just thank God that he was able to use me and just use our group. And just the last thing I like to say is I just looking back, I've seen a lot of growth, not only in this week, but just in a lot of things. First of all, as a group, I've seen us grow in prayer every night and in the morning. I've seen just everyone just growing in the Lord, and it's just awesome. And I've seen just myself as I started talking to people, just how comfortable I've gotten to just talking to people and door knocking. I remember when I first got assurance for my salvation in high school. My first time going on Great Commission, Eric reminded me of this. I went out with him back in Cleveland Baptist, and we went up to this one door, and someone said they were Pentecostal, and I looked at him, I was like, what does that mean? And stuff. So just to see how much I've grown and just throughout the years and my walk with the Lord and how it's helped me, and just if I haven't grown, then I wouldn't have been able to lead those two guys to the Lord, because I just learned so much from reading the Bible and praying, and I was just glad to see a lot of people in my group that I've really seen them grow and step out of their comfort zone. And I forgot what I was going to say, sorry. Just seeing just my own testimony, and just seeing how, of course, you always use the Bible. That's the main, that's how you find out about salvation. But I think the second most powerful tool is your own testimony. And I was able to use my testimony this week and all the times that I've been witnessing to people, and I think it really made an impact. And just the power of your testimony it's really strong. Even if you were someone that grew up getting dragged to church, that's still a powerful testimony. And don't be ashamed of your testimony. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lindsay, and this is my fourth SMITE. And every year, God's taught me just different things through just different situations and different SMITE groups. But this year he really taught me two things. One, that I can't do any of this within myself. I don't have the strength or ability to without him. And two, to just look beyond the surface. We went into I've never had a group where my first day of Bible club, I never had kids. Every year, all 4 years, I've always had kids every single day. And Tuesday, I went into Tuesday kind of going like, oh yeah, we're going on, passing out flyers, canvassing. It's going to be great. We'll have kids this afternoon. Like, it's going to be so much fun. And I was like, yay. And then we get to our Bible club, and there's no kids. And I was like, no. And so obviously that night we had to sit in the tent, in here, not the tent service, in here, because we didn't have any kids or anything. And Brother Pete preached that night. I believe the message of his title was Do It Yourself, the title of his message was Do It Yourself. I don't really remember for sure what it was. But I was listening to it, obviously, and he was talking about, how they were like, Joshua, like, why don't we have this? And Joshua was like, well, go do it yourself. And then he was talking, like, he applied it to how we as Christians should, if our relationship with God isn't right, we need to get it right ourselves. And if we're wanting something to happen, we need to go to God ourselves. We can't just expect, obviously God knows what we're thinking, but we can't just expect for him to be like, oh, they want this, so I'm just going to do it, but we never pray. And that kind of, like, broke my heart, because I realized I didn't really pray going into the SMITE for my group and for success and everything. And I just, went for it, and I was crying because I was like, God, is it my fault we didn't have kids? Because I wasn't trusting in you. I was trusting in the fact that in the past I've always had kids and that it was just going to happen. So I really learned that, you just really have to pray. And the next day, the whole morning, I was just like, God, please just give us kids, please. Just give us kids. Just give us souls that we can share the gospel with. And we stopped at the gas station at one point for a bathroom break. Surprise, we had to do that every day. And I was sitting in the van. We were waiting for everyone, and I was just sitting in the van by myself. I was by myself. I just pulled out my Bible, and I went to Mark, where it says, go ye, therefore, and preach the gospel. And I was like, that's what we're doing, all right? So no matter what, no matter the results of our clubs, we're sharing the gospel with everyone, every door that we knock on. If we're leaving a flyer, if they reject it, but if they don't, we're sharing the gospel with them. And I just started praying in the van, and I just started crying. I was like, Lord, just please give us kids. Just please give us somebody that we can share the gospel with. Please, God, please just give us people. I was just like, I just want to see this community, and I just want to leave knowing that people were saved and that we just had an influence in this community. And God gave us 3 kids, and I was, when our first kid walked up, I turned to Emily, and I was like, we have kids, and I started crying. She's like, no, you can't cry in front of the kids. So I was like, okay. So I was like, thank you, Lord. And then we had a brother and sister come, and both of their kids, their grandma stayed almost the whole time. The one grandma stayed the entire time. The other grandma stayed throughout the story lesson. I think she left toward the end. So we had 5 people total, 3 kids, 2 adults. So that's 5 people who that day, they all heard the gospel. They heard the story of the crucifixion. And whoever, I can't remember what the story was that day, but that story had the gospel in it too. So they heard the gospel. And then we went to, so what was I going to say? Oh, my second thing that God really taught me was to look beyond the surface. When Eric told me, I wanted Eric to be my group leader because we've been really good friends for a long time. I was like, I think that'd be fun to be in the same group with you. So he picked me, and then I asked him, I was like, what's the rest of the group? And he told me their names, and no offense, guys. I was like, oh, okay. I don't really know many of them. I knew Kara because I was in her group last year, and I knew Emily because I was in her group in Nebraska. But Kyle and Sam, I didn't even know Sam. I didn't even know it was that Sam. And Kyle, sorry, Sam. And Kyle, I didn't really know. I just sort of knew him, and I was like, okay, it's Kyle. And then Eric, all I really knew of him was he graduated with my sister. I was like, I don't really know him. So I was like, okay. And then we got out the first day, and I was like, and instantly we just clicked, all of us. We were just like there was no awkward, well, I think there was a little bit of awkward silence, and then Sam was like, why is it quiet? Start talking. So we just started talking. And like the whole week, we were just, if we weren't laughing together, which is pretty much what we did. We talked about why we believe what we believe, why we choose the KJV Bible, just different things, what we want to do for God with our lives, just how we want to use the different talents that God's given us and how we want to use that in our lives to bless and glorify God. And we were just talking, and I mean, at first I was like, wow, our houses are 15 minutes apart between every house. How is this going to work? And then we started driving the van together, and between every house, we weren't just, doing nothing. We were talking about the Bible together, and we were talking about God together, and we were praising God, and we were singing songs, and I grew so much with these people just by sitting in a van and talking. And I never really thought that could happen. I always thought SMITE's about helping these kids, which it is. It absolutely is. But it's also about growing in God. And I'm so grateful that he put me in their group because he knew that I needed these people in my life right at this moment. Oh, sorry. Did you? Yeah. And then another thing was to just look beyond the numbers, like Brianna said, because I was like, okay, we had our 3 was our high for kids, and then that was Wednesday, and then Thursday and Friday we only had 2 kids, a brother and a sister. But we found out they actually go to the church. We found out that the sister Brianna was not saved. And so we were able to, I talked with her on Friday, and she just had a lot of different questions and a lot of different doubts, so I just talked with her. And then on Friday, I was like, God, please give us, I was like praying with myself. I was like, God, please, I'm just praying for 6 kids. 6 kids, please give us 6. And he didn't. And at first I was like, okay, God, I prayed for this. But he wasn't telling me no. He's telling me, no, you don't need 6 kids. You need to spend more time with this girl because she's not saved. So we were able to just spend more time with her. And it went from Thursday, she was really quiet, just really didn't really get involved. She listened very well, but she didn't really get involved. And then Friday, she was so involved and she was so loving, and we were able to spend time with her and love on her and just be able to hopefully be a part of her that will bring her. We know God's working on her heart, and we're just hoping that we were able to be a part in that will bring her closer to him. And then another thing, this is my last thing. Last night we went out with Brianna, and like everyone said, and at first I was like, this is stupid, why are we doing this? I was like, I've never done that before, just stood on a street corner and started passing out flyers. I've always done like door knocking or canvassing or something. I've never done that before. And I felt so uncomfortable, and I was like, I don't like this at all. I was like, I don't want to be here, I don't like this. And on our side of the street, we didn't have a lot of good responses. Most people were just like, no, or we just didn't have any people on our side of the street, and we just went to stay in one little corner. We ended up walking down the street, and there was nobody. So we stood back, and I think we passed out maybe 2 tracts. But on the other side of the street, Eric was talking to a man about his salvation. And he went on the bus, and he came to church that night and got assurance of his salvation. And I looked at Emily, and I was like, that's why we were there tonight. It wasn't because God was trying to annoy me by making me stand on a street corner. It was because God knew that that man needed somebody to talk to him about his salvation. And he sent us, and he sent Eric. And though this was maybe, we might look at this and might think, oh, only, I don't even know what the total number is, probably about 10 people now were saved. We're like, oh, it's just 10 people. Look beyond that. It's 10 people who can go to bed every night with peace, knowing that if they died, they'd wake up in heaven. And that, we were talking about that last night when we were praying together as a group. And even though 10 people might not be a lot, that's 10 times that the devil was beaten. That's 10 times we had a part in beating the devil. And that, I think, is just so amazing. And even though other people might say, oh, it's only 10, it's 10 people. I mean, we should be so happy about that. So, yeah, that's just kind of my testimony.
I'm Emily, and this is my 6th year on SMITE. And this has been a really interesting SMITE. I think all of you would agree with me on that. God taught me 2 things this week. I like to go into SMITE asking God to teach me something, just one thing. But first he taught me that, well, it was actually a refresher, that he is powerful. He reminded me of how powerful he really is. I think it was, I don't even remember what day it was. All the days run together. I'm so tired. But our van broke down. I think it was the battery. And our van broke down on the side of the road. And we didn't let it discourage us. We knew right away that it was the devil attacking us. And we're like, we're not going to let this discourage us. So we started singing bus songs. And we started yelling in our van and saying that we hated the devil and that he was a meanie, and Eric got out of the van and he walked down to a business and he got a guy to come help us, give us a jump, and then we were running again, and our spirits were still high, and we were on our way, and we went through with our Bible club, and we had a really good time. And then the second lesson that he taught me was that he puts you in the right place at the right time. Eric put me in the tent service one of the nights, and there weren't really that many kids, so we didn't need a ton of workers in there. But I was sitting on the end, and there weren't really kids around me. And when they had the invitation, a little boy went to be dealt with, and then this little girl just came following after him. And I went up and grabbed her, and I said, did you hear what he said? Did you want to come out and learn about Jesus? And she said yes. So I took her over and I sat her on the steps and I dealt with her and I gave her the plan of salvation, and she was just so open and so sweet and so willing to trust Christ, and she got saved that night. And then one of the days, I think it was maybe Wednesday, we went to a gas station to use the restroom, and there was because the first day we didn't have any kids, and there was a little boy in there with his grandma. And I think it was Sam that gave her a flyer, and the little boy was really excited, and he was like, yeah, I want to come. So he came that day, and we had a lot of fun with him. We loved him, and he only came one day, but we still just enjoyed him and had so much fun with him. And then finally, just like Lindsay said, and just like Eric was talking about, yesterday we went out to Potsdam to pass out flyers, and it was really discouraging because at first we got off the bus and we had absolutely no idea what to do because we didn't have balloons. The balloons that we had were really sad and we couldn't really give them out. And we started walking up and down the street and we were like, let's split up. So we went to one corner and there was nobody. And then the people that we did see were so rude and they wouldn't take what we tried to give them. And we handed out like 2 tracts, and then we were all across the street, and Eric was over there dealing with that man. And so Amber ran over and gave him a Bible, and he got to give him the plan of salvation. And I was sitting next to him in the bus, and I heard that man pray, and I think that it was the sweetest thing that I've heard. I think that it was just such a blessing to me that I got to hear that. And I knew that that's why God put us there that night. Even if it was just one soul, he put us there for that one soul. And that's what it's all about. There's great rejoicing in heaven when there's just one soul saved. And he put us there just for that one man, and that's what made it all worth it. And that's what SMITE is all about.
Hello, my name is Eric Sigmund. This is my 8th year on SMITE. I was group member for 5 years, group leader for 2, and judged by what I'm hearing, this is my first and last year as a driver. And I'll be honest, there were times where I was just a little flustered, a little angry, like when I nearly hit a deer and called it Bambi. But being, a Bible college student, going to my senior year, and having done, this is my second internship, you sometimes can fall into a trap of, okay, this is ministry, let's just get it done, check it off the list, and move on to the next thing. Okay, a soul got saved, that's what we're supposed to do. Okay, lives are changing, that's what's supposed to happen. And I'll be honest, that was kind of my mentality. But I think the Lord just really, with the group and just the way I saw them work and just the joy they had, the Lord just began to show me, hey, maybe you should just change your view. Maybe you should realize these people that are getting saved, they're not going to hell anymore. These people that are getting discipled, these people that are being invested in, well, their lives are changing. That's really the biggest thing that I learned this week, just to look at the big thing, look at the big picture, just to maintain and to keep a spiritual perspective.
All right. Certainly appreciate the testimonies here. We have 2 more groups to go through here. We're just a little bit past schedule, so if you could do me a favor, when you get to your opportunity to give a testimony, if you can keep it at 1 or 2 minutes or so, and then that way we give everyone an opportunity to speak. But make no mistake, the testimonies have just been outstanding, and man, I'm just so proud of you from the bottom of my heart. We want to make sure we're giving everyone a fair shake, so to speak. So if I can have Colton Pierpont come up here. Colton Pierpont, if you can just expedite that this way. Colton Pierpont. Okay.
Hi. So this was my first year as a group leader, and like when I got the text from Brother Wissam, I was really nervous. And then like we went to Luke's graduation party, and I found out that Joseph was also a group leader, and he's like, "No, I'm not doing this." I was like, "Joseph, we were literally built for SMITE. We've been going on it since we were like 5, and like I was really excited to be able to be a group leader." And, like I was really nervous also, and I just was like praying really hard for like my group, whoever they were going to be, which they were amazing. Thank you all. I wouldn't have been able to do this without you. But like as we got into the week, Brother Wissam handed us these binders, and I was like, cool, he organized it. I'm terrible at organization, thank you. So I looked at the map, and usually I'm pretty decent at reading a map, but I looked at this map and I was like, they're all rivers. There's like 4 streets. What am I supposed to do? And so we're driving, and I was like, I don't even know where we're supposed to door knock. Like, there's like 4 houses per street. And so we like get down there, we start door knocking on Tuesday. And like, I feel like we handed out a bunch of flyers, but I feel like we didn't do that many houses, and we walked 7 miles. It was crazy. My legs were killing me. And like that day, I was like, Lord, please, I just really want us to have kids. And so we got to the park, and we just kind of sat there, and there were no kids. But we were able to talk to some of the basketball people. We left flyers for all the basketball people to be able to come to the evening service. None of them came, but it was still a good opportunity to talk to them. We were also able to hang up flyers all over the school in the time that we would have been doing the Bible club. So that night, we went to go start our bus, and the oil or something was leaking out of it, and our bus was broken. I was like, what are we supposed to do? This is kind of important for us to have a bus. And so we took a van, and there's still no kids out there. So we came back, and the next day we had to take the van because the bus was still broken. And I was like, this is going to be interesting. So that day we like went into this, I don't even know what it was this forest. We would have never been able to get in there with a bus, but we sure got in there with a van. It was crazy because like we met all these people, and the people that came that week were a result of our bus not working, because we had a van to be able to go into these areas. These kids came. We would have never gone into these areas if we had that bus, so that was kind of a blessing in disguise. Even though it didn't look all that good, God brought something out of it, and it was really cool. They were the best kids. Their names were Sarah, Sergio, and Diego. Sarah and Diego, I'll let Mrs. Bork talk about them because she was kind of very instrumental with them. But they were just the greatest kids, and I couldn't have asked for better kids. Like, I was so thankful, and like there was just so many blessings in disguises this week. Like, I picked like the randomest group. Like, they're not like that random, but I don't know. Like, I just kind of picked, and like I picked A-Rod because like I love A-Rod. He's the best, and like it was so cool that these kids were Spanish, and like there's just something about hearing something in like your own kind of language. Like the grandma was like, she knew English but not like really well, and the mother knew English better, but like A-Rod was speaking to her in Spanish, and I was like, it's so cool, like she's able to hear this in her own language. Like I feel like that's just a better connection to get with that family. And I just want you guys to keep praying for them because they moved to Syracuse on Friday, and just pray for them to find a Baptist church up there. But yeah, it's been a great week.
Hi, I'm Becca, and this week of SMITE has really taught me about prayer. So the first day, like Sarah said, it was like in the middle of nowhere. We'd have to walk quite a bit to go to the next house, and even up their driveways a lot. And then I remember on the first day we had no one, and then I was thinking, okay, well, I'll pray for one. but I won't get my hopes up too much. And then I think it was Brother Sam that said, when you pray, you have to have confidence in the Lord. So that's what he gave me. And I remember I was just begging him for one person, and he gave us that. And then he helped me with my public speaking. And the girls in my cabin, they know. I was like freaking out because Sarah gave me 2 stories. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a bit too much. Remember to stick with games, but he's really helped me with my public speaking. And then I dealt with the heaven story, and Mrs. Bork helped me with that. And the girl that we had and the boys that we had, they were so intrigued with heaven, and they just kept raising their hand and asking all these questions, and it was just amazing how God has worked through me this week.
Well, I am Mrs. Bork, and I know a lot of you came with prayers for a certain number to come to your club. And I love working with children, but I have a real difficult time dealing with salvation with little kids. Because it's such an important decision that you don't want to give them false hope if they don't make that decision. And so I came praying that I would meet these relationships. What Sam said, we're going to go to this town, you got to make relationships. So I thought, well, I know Sarah's 18, but I'm the only adult on this group. So I'm going to focus on reaching the parents and the adults that we meet throughout the neighborhood. So to be honest, I really wasn't praying for a number, but just to meet people along the way. So as Sarah said, our bus broke down Tuesday night. And we did quite a bit of walking on Tuesday and passed out, I think, over 200 flyers, but really made no connections. And Wednesday came, and now we have this van. So what are we going to do? And Mr. Goodman, first year on SMITE, awesome driver. He's a lot like my husband in the sense of, oh, here's a street. Oh, here's a street. And we learned at the end of the driveway when there's a big white sign with like 80 names on it, there's 80 houses back over the river and through the woods. So that day we were able to get the van down roads that became dirt, became pine, became river. And through that, we met this family that everyone's been talking about. And oddly enough, I knocked on the door, and she and her husband had moved here 2 years ago from Aurora, which is Cleveland area. And she said, but we're only here a short bit of time. We're leaving on Friday. We're moving to Syracuse. And I said, oh, what a great time. I know how it is when you're packing up and your kids are in the way. Bring them to the camp. And she said, I think that's a good idea. So they came, I know, and Brother Ron is somewhere and not real happy about our bus bill. But our bus repair is definitely worth the 2 souls that got saved from that house. So that was a huge blessing. The other opportunity that I had is the gentleman that died in your church was a huge blessing for us to meet a lot of people in the 2 towns that we were in. I was at your church this week for a funeral, they would say. And I don't know this man, but this man is very highly thought after. So there's reassurance in our testimony and how we live, that in our death, we should want other people to say the same about us. And so I met all sorts of people that know him, and I've given the pastor a lot of follow-ups and people that were here for the funeral. But today we were going out, and I thought, oh, really, we've been 40 miles. We've crossed 8 rivers. We've passed out 600 tracks. And everybody was in great health. But I'm like, really? We're going to go out today? Where are we going to go? So Sarah says, Mrs. Bork, I'm going to send you to Pierpont. You'll find something out there. So I go with LeBron as my driver, and I go with Nikki and Brian, and they're sleeping in the back seat because it's a country mile to get out there. And he's like, where to go? So I have to pull up Google Earth to find houses. And so I come up to this intersection. I go, well, if we drive out this far, there's 6 houses within walking distance. And he passes a driveway. He goes, this one? I said, no, keep going. This one. So we randomly stop, and had an opportunity. Of course, our rule is never go alone, but I went alone all week. And the other rule is don't go inside alone. And this old man's like, come in, take your shoes off, come in. And I'm like, okay. So I go in, and first thing you kind of make the conversation, and I said, well, how you doing? And his wife is sitting on the couch with oxygen tube, dying. And I said, this is why we went today. Just as your group shared about, why am I in the corner? Why am I in the corner? It's for that one soul. So I had an opportunity to sit with he and his wife. And LeBron's like up and down the street, where'd she go? And I said, excuse me. And I had to open the door and like give the thumbs up that I'm still alive. And so then he pulls around and waits in the driveway, and the old man keeps saying, she's fine, she's fine. But I had an opportunity to share the gospel with them on the edge of their seats, because they've been in the Catholic Church and the Methodist Church and the Wesleyan Church, but has never heard the gospel as a relationship and not a religion. And so neither one of them at this point today got saved to my knowledge, but the Lord has given me peace with the way we shared tears in her foyer, that she understands the fragility of life and the necessity to be saved. And I just feel like she did that today. And that's a follow-up that we're going to have as well. So I learned at almost 40 years old that through adversity, the Lord teaches you things if you're just obedient.
My name is Jack, and this is my second year on SMITE. And this year I learned that blessings sometimes come in disguises. So on Friday, it started raining right as we started Bible Club. So we all piled in the bus, and it was like hot and moist, and it was pretty bad. So I was like, this is gonna stink. But it was actually a blessing because it got the kids to listen intently on the story. And later that day, after Mr. Goodwin and my mom talked with the kids, they ended up getting saved. So that taught me that trials just come so you can overcome them.
Hi, I'm Brian. On the first day, I hurt my hand on a tree. So with my injury, I wasn't able to help out as much. I couldn't pick up things, and I felt useless. And I wanted to do better, but I couldn't. And so on our way to the school on Tuesday, I was going to pray for the Bible Club just by myself, and I realized that even with my injury, I could still try and do my best for the Lord. And so I prayed, and throughout the week, even with one hand, we did a great job. And the two kids that got saved, Sarah and Diego, they were amazing kids, and I'm happy that I was able to work with them. And thank you, Sarah, for allowing me to be in your group.
All right, and our last group, Canton Priestfield. Canton Priestfield.
I'm Nate, and I got to be the leader of this group. And first of all, I want to say that my group is awesome. Each and every person in there had their own. It was cool to see how the Lord put my group together. Each and every person had their own like talents and stuff that I was like, yeah, I can see this in this person, so I had to attack them, and everybody was nervous about some stuff. I was like, nah, we don't need to be nervous. We got a lot of work to do, so we got to do it. We had a blast serving the Lord. First of all, it was awesome. And second of all, my bus with the other group, every one of them were awesome too. It was just so much fun. I literally had a blast. This is the most fun probably ever in my life. And I'm not really afraid to talk to people. I really only have one fear doing anything, like walking in the street or whatever, and that's them big old dogs. And so that was the only thing I was afraid of would be a dog. I'm more afraid of a dog than I am talking to a human being or a stranger. But then I'll be walking down my street and I was praying for no dogs, and this was so funny. It made me think whenever this would happen, it would make me laugh because I thought the Lord's being funny. You know, he's making me laugh because Justin would be like, oh, there's Marissa. We'd hear her screaming. It's like 2 streets away because she's being attacked by a dog, but it wasn't me. So I'm like, whoa. But anyway, but other than that, I'm very thankful. Also, we didn't have any kids for all the way up until Friday, but then Thursday came and I could tell people in my group were starting to get discouraged, and even someone from somewhere else, a different group, came up to me and was really discouraged. So I was like, man, I mean, I'm not really. Every year I've been to SMITE, I've always had like at least 15 to 30 something kids, you know. So I never really experienced that, but I didn't really get upset. But I noticed that the people in my group were so. During Thursday night service, I was in the gym or the tent, and so I actually went to my bus because it's different when I'm praying, when I'm leading my group in prayer. It's different than when I'm talking to the Lord by myself. So it's like I don't have no alone time. I need to talk to the Lord, tell him what's on my heart. So I didn't want to, come in here and interrupt. So I went to the bus, and I've seen the Lord do so many wild, crazy things, literally impossible things in my life and in my family's life, just by me talking to him. And so I'm like, this ain't nothing. I know he can do something crazy. And so I was praying to the Lord, talking to him, and calling out those people's names I knew that were discouraged in my groups. And so we got to do something about this. And then when I went back into the tent, I was listening to one of the children's stories, and the thought hit me that every time the Lord's done something in my life, the verse hit me first. This I recalled in my mind, therefore have I hope. And every time the Lord's done something in my life, it was always because I would tell him, something happened in my family or something, and they would doubt the Lord or whatever, and I would just be like, I know God's going to do this. You just watch and see. And so then I'd get on my face and I'd pray the Lord to deliver my family of whatever's going on or my own life, and see even in my church. It's pretty cool. And so, but this time I was like, how am I supposed to tell the Lord? How am I supposed to be like, right? I truly did believe in my heart, but I didn't know how to show my group, that I'm believing we're gonna have something. So I went to the dude who does the snacks, and I told him I need extra ice and extra cookies, extra everything, because we're gonna have kids. And he's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm positive. In my mind, I didn't have not a single kid. I got to talk to a single kid the whole week. Even door knocking, there was no kids. They were all adults. So I was like, oh, Lord, you're just gonna have to do something crazy, as simple as that. So then Friday came, and we didn't have, for the first hour, we didn't have nobody. So it's like, we saw a daycare. So I was like, whoa. So I knocked on the daycare's door, and I was like, can your kids come to our Bible club? And she said, no, she can't let them leave. I was like, well, can we bring it to you? And she's like, yeah. So we got to give out all of our cookies. We didn't get to use all of our ice, but almost. And so we got to give out all of our prizes. Our whole prize bag was gone. So it was awesome, and it's cool to see. I sat back in the daycare and I watched each round. I even got to record it so I can always remember it. I watched every person in our group just smiling at those kids, because we're all wanting those kids so bad. So I got to watch each and every one in my group and the light in there. And I was like, if my life can be worth anything, it would just be that people can see that the impossible can be done by believing. And so never be discouraged no matter what, literally no matter what, even if next year comes around or you're in your own life and some bad things happen, or next year comes around and you have no kids, don't be discouraged, because there's a reason for everything. And when you talk to the Lord, believe everything that you're talking to him about. If you have a friend you're praying about, or you have a family member or salvation, believe God's going to take care of it and do it, and then he will. You just got to believe, and then even state to your friends and family, I know God's going to do something crazy. And then ask him, or do something crazy, and he will. So I'm very thankful for that.
Okay, thank you, Brother Stan, for letting me come to SMITE this year. You did a good job. Okay, and I want to say something. Wednesday was my lesson, and I told the lesson to my group right there. Thank you.
All right. Well, hey, that was a great testimony service, and certainly appreciate the testimony that God gave you this week and what he did in your life. And you know, in our SMITE meeting right before we left, I shared with our team this verse. The Bible says, and Jesus went about all the cities and villages. You know, the Lord never hindered himself to a city. The Lord never hindered himself to a suburb. The Lord never hindered himself to say, well, you know, I'm going to find this bustling metropolis right here because I have the most people I can affect. No, he went to villages too. And you know, there are villages in the United States where I once heard an Alaskan church planner that he would specifically say there are some villages that literally have 2 people living in them. 2. And I ask you this question. What is the value of one soul? Apparently, it is the death of one heavenly Father. Apparently. And so, let this be a reminder to all of us that this ministry of this gospel, that when the Bible says to go ye therefore into all the world, that we go into all the world. You know, that some of us were a little bit perplexed at some of our perceived success rate or whatever the case may be, and yet Christ went into all the cities, sure, but into all the villages too. And so I want you to understand that. And this week, whatever it was that God did in your life, nurture that testimony. Be reminded of this moment. Go back and visit this week again and again, okay? Well, we're going to close in prayer, and I'll let you use the restroom here very quickly. We have just our evening meeting. If everyone else, we appreciate folks from First Baptist of Parishville for coming in. You know, thanks for hanging with us here, about an hour and a half, looks like. So we really appreciate that. Let you all go home. If you want to stay for choir practice at our meeting, you're absolutely welcome to. And things like that. But we absolutely love this place. We love this church. We love this preacher right here. And it's just been a huge blessing to us. So let's have a word of prayer. And if you can meet me back here 9:10. Okay, it's about 9 o'clock right now. Meet me back at 9:10. Father, thank you so much for this day. I thank you for all that you do. What a good week. Lord, we love you so much for all that you've done and all that you will do. Lord, there's one more service. We pray for tomorrow. We pray for the preaching in the tent. We pray for in the children's service, pray for the preaching in here in this great church. And Lord, may you fill your preachers up tomorrow. Fill them with thy Holy Spirit. And Lord, as they would speak as thus saith the Lord. In Christ's name, amen.
I'm gonna let the glory roll when the roll is called in glory. I'm gonna get beside myself when I get beside of the King that day. I'm gonna have the time of my life when the time of my life is over. I'm gonna get carried away when I get carried away.